Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 1 of my iOS development tutorial that's up to date for 2020. And in this video, I am going to teach you how to make a complete iPhone application. And as this series continues, we will continue to make a complete iPhone application in each video. So now what I want to do is jump over and show you the final app. And here is the application that we will be creating, and it is a tip calculator. And by understanding how this works, you're going to be able to make countless different types of applications. You can see here we are going to be able to use the keyboard, and the user would be able to come in and say enter $100, and we are going to verify that this is a double. So if they try to go and put a number that would not make sense, we're going to block that. We are then going to be able to increase and decrease the tip, and you can see how the numbers are changing here. We can go and split the bill and so forth. You can also see how that is updating. We'd be able to click away and have the keyboard go away. This is going to work for multiple different orientations, so if we would go and rotate it, it's automatically going to rotate and everything's going to stay on the screen. It's also going to work for light as well as dark mode, and for any different size of iPhone. So now you've seen the complete application, and now what I'm going to do is show you everything that we're going to cover in this tutorial. Alright, so in this tutorial we're going to cover how to install Xcode. I'm going to give you an overview of the Xcode interface. I am going to also show you how to set up a free developer's account, how to create launch screens, how to make an app icon using all free software online, how to make an interface that's going to work horizontally, vertically, and also with dark and light mode. I'm going to show you how to run the app in a simulator as well as on your phone, and also provide all of the code required to make the working tip calculator. So to install Xcode, you're going to go to the App Store and just search for Xcode, and you're going to see something that looks like this, and you're going to click right here and install it. It's going to ask you if you agree with the agreement, say yes, and it's going to install everything for you. After it installs, you're going to be able to, you could either come up here to the little magnifying glass and go and search for Xcode, or you can go in your applications folder, whatever you would like, and you are set up and ready to go. Now what you need to do is just click right here where it says create a new Xcode project. After you do that, you're going to see the screen is going to look like this, and you're going to want to click right here where it says iOS and then single view app, and then click on next. You're going to have to give a name to this. I'm going to call this Tipper, and you can see right here on your screen, since you're starting off, you probably don't have a team defined. It probably says none. I'm going to show you how to set that up in a minute. You're going to want to type in your name. After that, you're going to need a unique identifier, which is normally a website you own. If you don't own a website, you can just type in com dot and type in your name. You're going to want to make sure that this is selected for Swift, that you have storyboard here. We're going to cover Swift UI later, but I want to start with a storyboard. And then you're going to want to make sure that these are all unchecked, and then click on next. You're then going to want to define where you want to store your application, and click on create. And there you go. Now we are going to have this work for portrait as well as landscape, left and right. You can see all the information that we typed in here before. Main interface is main, that's all perfectly fine. Launch screen down here, what we're going to do is click on the drop down and just click on main. And what that's going to do for us is it is going to go and automatically generate a launch screen. Maybe in the next video I'll show you how to make a custom launch screen. And the launch screen is just what is going to be displayed to the user for a second right before the app loads. So it gives the impression that the application is working fine. That's the purpose of the launch screen. But some people put icons on it and such, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video. I'm also going to create an app icon, but we're going to do that in a second. Then what you're going to want to do is come right here where it says signing and capabilities. And this is going to be where you're going to go and put in your developer ID, which is free. I'm going to show you how to set that up. First off, I just want to click on General here, and I want to have this work for iPhone but not iPad, so we don't need to worry about iPad right now. Then to set up your developer ID, you're going to go to Xcode and Preferences. On the Fonts and Colors screen tab you have right here, if you want to change the size, all you need to do is select all of the different things you want to increase the size on and click down here, and again you can change the font. And you can do the same for the console, which is going to be down here, the debugger pane. But what we're going to do here is click on Accounts, and then you're going to want to click on Plus. And as long as you have an Apple ID, you're going to be able to go in here and add a new Apple ID. I already have mine set up. And then once you do that, you're going to be able to go into Signing and Capabilities and just click right here and select your Apple ID. So you don't need a developer account. You don't need to pay Apple anything unless you actually plan on uploading your app to the App Store. But you can still load it on your own phone even without paying Apple. So don't worry about that. Then what we're going to do is come over here and click on Main Storyboard. And also I want to show the debugger window down here. To do that, just go over here to View and Debug Area and then click on Activate Console. And you can see the debugging area down here. Now this may seem a little bit confusing, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of everything you see on the screen. Alright, so here's basically everything labeled that is going on in front of you as we sit here. This is called the Project Navigator or the Navigator pane or whatever you want to call it. And it just contains all of the different files that your app contains. And we're going to go through what every single one of them does as the tutorial continues. Then you're going to have your document outline. And this is going to make it very easy for you to select individual components that are in your application. You're then going to have your status bar across the top, and to run your application, you're first going to select if you want to use a simulator or your regular phone, and then just click on the play button to load it up, or the stop button to stop it. Also over here, you're going to be able to add components by clicking on this plus sign, and we'll be doing a lot of that. You're then going to have your editor here, and this is where you're going to type in all of your code. You're also going to have your storyboard, which is where you're going to drag and drop components onto the design for the interface for your application. Down here, you're going to have the debug pane, which I just showed you how to open up, and it's going to display error message and output that you send there through the use of the print statement. And if this is at all confusing, don't worry about it. We're going to be going over all these individual pieces in much more detail as this video continues. And then finally, you're also going to have the utilities pane, or what is sometimes referred to as the inspector. And you're mainly going to be working with two main parts of it, which is going to be the attributes inspector, which is going to allow you to do things like change text and colors and align text and so forth and so on, a lot of other different things. And you're also going to have the size inspector, which is going to be used to position information for your components. Now what I want to do, however, is jump over and create an app icon. Now I'm going to be using a free website, and it's called canva.com, and you need to sign up for an account there, but it's free. And we're going to create our icon directly inside of here. So what we're going to do is just go to Templates, and then I'm going to go to Logos, and then I'm going to come down here and click on Logo. And then I'm just going to go and look for a basic coffee cup type of design. So let's go and let's look at food and drink, for example. Food and drink logo pops up right here. And let's come down inside of here, and I know they have a coffee cup somewhere. And there it is right there. And it basically looks like an app icon. So I'm going to click on that just to make this very simple. I'm then going to select the text that's on here and delete all of that out. And then I'm going to select the coffee cup we have right here. And I'm just going to drag it so that it fills up the entire screen, or the entire bordered area. And there we go. So this is a very simple application, and I know coffee cups don't necessarily have a lot to do with tips, but I just wanted to have something for you to work with. So after we'll go and stretch that out, we can come over here and click on Download. And it's going to have a ping. You can't increase the size, but I'm going to show you how to do that, so don't worry about it. And then just click on Download. And it's going to prepare everything and download it. And you can see it's right here. So we're going to be able to come over here and say Show in Finder. And I'm going to go and paste it inside of the folder that we have here. So paste item, and there it is. And I can just call this app logo or something like that. There we go. Now we need to enlarge the size of it, however. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a different website, and you can just go to any of these websites. You can type into Google Photo Enlarger, and they'll send you to tons of websites, but I'm just going to go to photoenlarger.com, and it's going to select image to enlarge. I'm going to click on Browse. I'm then going to find my app logo that I just created and click on Open. And then it's going to ask me how big I want it to be. I want it to be 10 1024 by 1024. And you can see that I selected it right there. And then I can just click on enlarge. And you can see that gives you multiple different versions of the enlargement so that you can decide which one looks better for you. And I'm just going to select this first one we have right here. And I'm going to click on download. And it's going to go in your downloads folder, of course. And I'm going to say that I want this to be a PNG file. And you can see that it went and downloaded it. So I'm going to jump into my downloads folder and copy that over to my Make iPhone Apps folder. And here we are. And I'm just going to paste this inside of here. And I'm going to call this app logo also, but without the dash. There we go. Now what we need to do is go to a website that's going to allow us to create all of the different resolutions we're going to need for our app. And I like to use appicon.co to do this. And you're going to click on app icon. And we're going to look right here where it says iPhone. You can also have iPad. You can do whatever you like. I'm going to go and get our image. Here it is. Here's our new app logo. I'm going to drag it over here. You can see it said 1024 by 1024. And then I'm just going to click on generate. And it's going to go and create that zip file. So I'm going to go and copy it from my downloads directory and paste it inside of my folder. And you can see there's a zip file. And I went and opened it. And you can see here are going to be all of our asset folders that we're going to use for our app icons. Now let's jump back over into Xcode. Or actually, let's go and drag this over here. So on the left side, I have my tipper application that you can see is right there. And on the right side, I have the auto-generated icon files that we had before. So what I'm going to do is it has exactly the same name as the generated icon set. I'm going to take the new one, drag it over here into this folder. And it's going to say an older item named with the same name. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I do. Replace it. And now what you're going to be able to do is come over here to Assets, click on Assets and App Icon. And you're going to see that all of the different resolutions that you're going to need for all of your potential icons are going to be auto-generated and placed inside of there. So there you go. Now you have a custom icon for your application. So now what we're going to do is jump to our main storyboard, which is where we're going to create our interface. So main storyboard, here it is right here. And I'm going to drag everything over here a little bit so that we'll have plenty of room. Now it's very easy to create an interface. All you need to do is go click on this little plus sign up here and drag and drop whatever you want wherever you want it. Whenever you're creating iPhone applications, probably the hardest thing is understanding the concept of how auto layout works. And auto layout is going to be how Apple is going to help us have our application look precisely the way we want it to look on numerous different types of devices. Now, it's very important to understand the concept that our sizes of our components are going to be based off of points and not pixels. And basically, the difference between a point and a pixel is that points are relative measurements that can be changed based off of different device resolutions. And we're going to be using things called constraints, which are basically rules about how views and components are going to be able to relate to each other. So what we're going to do is just start creating our interface. So I'm going to drag over a label, and you can see here there's a little jagged blue line right here, and I'm going to drop our label inside of it. Now over here in the inspector, I'm now going to be able to change things about what's displayed. So what I want to do is I want to type in total bill and put a colon inside of there. I'm going to be able to change this text size by clicking right here, and I'm going to change it to bold, and I'm going to change this to 25. You can see it's changing over there, and I'm going to click on done. Now I also want to have a text field where the user is going to be able to enter information. So again, plus, and you can see text fields right here. I'm going to drag this over, and as I drag it over, you're going to see there's dashed lines. So I'm going to go and drop it inside of there. And this is all going to be lined up together. Now there's all kinds of different views, are basically just boxes that surround everything. So you have a view right here that's going to be your main view that's going to surround everything. And you can see that's highlighted in blue. And then we have something called the safe area. Now the safe area lies inside of the entire device view. And what we're going to be able to do here, well, maybe something else I should show you, is you're going to be able to change the different devices that you're working on by just coming down here. So let's click on this, and you can select all the different device styles. You can also change whether you're in light mode or dark mode, as well as your orientation. We're not going to worry about that right this second. I'm going to use iPhone. What do I want to use? I'm going to use iPhone 11. I think that works. Or iPhone Pro. It doesn't matter. Our interface is going to work on everything. All right. Now the safe area is basically going to lie below the notch and above the area where users are going to be able to either close your application or switch to other applications. And for the most part, you shouldn't have anything inside of this area that would impede the user from being able to close your application. So no interactive elements down here. You can have things up there, but it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do now that we created our label as well as our text field is we're going to select both of them, and we're going to put those inside of what is called a stack view. Now to do so, you're just going to come over here and you're going to see there's a little arrow. We're going to click on that and we're going to say stack view. And now they are embedded inside of a stack view. And now what we need to do is define how we want our view that we have here in the interface to be laid out. And we're going to do it in a very generic way so that it's going to work on every type of device. So I'm going to open this stack view over here. And how we're going to do this is by using things called constraints. So I'm going to come over here and you're going to see this is going to be where we're going to be able to add new constraints. I'm going to select this. And then everything is going to be based off of other things on the canvas. So I am going to base this off of my safe area. And I'm going to say that I want a margin on the top that is going to be where the safe view begins plus 10 pixels. I'm also then going to say that I want this to stretch the whole way over to the left side of the screen. So I'm going to have this be the total view. Remember, the view is basically everything. And I'm going to put 0 inside of there. I'm then also on the right side going to do the same. Select view, put 0 inside of there. I'm not going to do anything on the bottom, however. And also I'm going to constrain margins, which means that it is going to lay out our view that contains our two components with a margin on the side. After you do that, you're going to click on Add 3 Constraints. And whenever you do that, you're going to see that everything has been properly stretched out on our screen. Then we can adjust the spacing between the components by coming over here to spacing. And let's say that I want this to be 54. And there we go. And you can see here that we have basically defined our positioning totally regardless of any other components on the screen. So it's going to work on every type of device. If you, however, went in here and started giving very specific heights, and you can do that here, if you click on this guy right here, if you would go in and give very specific widths and heights and things like that, you're going to cause all kinds of problems. So never do that. And if you do have some type of error, you're going to see like a little triangle up here, which that might happen as this tutorial continues. So what we're going to do is go and give our stack view a name. So I'm going to just go and select this up here, and I'm just going to call this total, bill, and SV for stack view. And there we are. So now we need to go and drag in additional components. So again, click on the plus sign, the label, drag it over here. Doesn't matter where it goes. Drop it inside of there. And we're going to go and select this little guy right here. And I'm going to go and give it a name. So I'm going to have this one just be tip with a space and a colon. And then let's zoom out a little bit. And let's go and give it exactly the same font. So I'm going to say that I want this to be bold. And again, 25. And done. And then I'm going to drag on another text field. So let's go and drop that inside of there. Doesn't matter where it goes because we're going to go and adjust everything using constraints. Let's go. I don't like to select items or components inside of here. I prefer to select them on this side, but it's up to you. It just can cause some problems. So let's select both of those guys. Come down here again, and we're going to put those in a stack view. There they are. And once again, we're going to basically do exactly the same. We can come down here and we're going to add constraints. And I'm going to this time define that I want to have this be 20, but I want it to be based off of the item above it. And you can see the stack view above it. So it's going to be 20 points below the stack view that we just created. So that's good. Then after that, I'm going to go and do the same thing. I'm going to go view and go 0 and view and 0. And this went and messed it up. Let's go and have this be 20. And again, it's that. So that's good. And we don't need to do anything on the bottom again. And constrain margins is fine. So click add 3 constraints. And you can see that's laid out. But if you zoom in, you're going to see the spacing. The text field is sort of laying out there wrong. So I'm going to go into spacing. And once again, change this to 54. And that got a little bit whacked out. The reason why is I'm going to select this stack field over here. Whoops, accidentally hit the wrong thing. Select that. And I want all these components to be filled in equally. So I'm going to go fill equally. And now everything's going to be given exactly the same amount of space. I'm going to do the same thing, stack view again. That's what I selected. And come over here again and say fill equally. And now you can see that everything is lining up perfectly if I zoom in here a little bit. All right, so there we are. We're moving right along. And I'm going to go and change this to the tip stack view. And now I got a name that makes a little bit more sense. So let's just continue with our interface. Actually, you know what? Why don't I show you how to go and put in a background that is going to work for light and dark mode. So what I went and did was I created two different PDF files. And there's a link in the description to the GitHub account that's going to allow you to download this entire project for free. So let's close this. And you're going to see here I have dark background PDF and light background PDF. And you can go and select these and just drag them directly inside of your folder if you'd like. And I'm just going to say create folder references. That's fine. And finish. I'm going to click on copy items if needed and finish. And there are our two backgrounds we're going to use here. So to create our background, we're going to go into our assets folder. Just select this guy right here. And we're going to define that we want a background. So let's go and right click here and go to new image set. And I'm going to name this background. Right like this. Now what we're going to need to do is we're using PDF files, so we don't need to have multiple different sizes for this. I'm going to come over here and go preserve vector data. Scales, I'm going to change this to single scale. So now it's just one, and that just means that the same background is going to be used everywhere. And since it's a PDF file, a vector art, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to come down to appearances so that I can work with light and dark mode. And I'm going to select any light and dark. Now what I can do is go and get the PDFs that I had here. I'm going to have any appearance. I'm going to have that be light as the default. So just drop it in there. I'm going to have light for the light, obviously, and dark for the dark. And there it is. Now what I'm going to be able to do is click again on my main storyboard and go and drag in an image. So I'm just going to select up here, and I could type in image view if I'd like. So, or just image. And drag this guy over and drop it inside of there. Now what I'm going to be able to do is go over to the image part that we have here, select that, and select background, and it's automatically going to adjust. I'm going to change the content mode to aspect fill, and then I'm going to go and drag this image up here on the screen to the top and down here to the bottom and to the left and right like that. I'm going to drag this background up here. However, I'm just going to go and put it directly under safe area. So now it's in the background. And then I need to add constraints to it. So again, come down here, click on add constraints. And I'm going to base everything off of what's called the super view. So click on this. So there's the view. That's fine. I'm going to say that I want this to be 0. Again, this is going to be view, and change this to 0. And again, the view, change that to 0. And then again, the view, and change that to 0. And I want to make sure that constrain margins is not checked, and click on add 4 constraints. And it gets messed up sometimes, so we have to go in here and fix this. To go and fix our constraints, you're going to see if we click on constraints here, it's going to show us all our constraints. I'm going to click on background leading. And you can see that's messed up. I want this over here to the left. So I'm going to go over here and you're going to see that everything is fine. This is SuperView, and this is background leading. Why isn't it working? Well, I just got to go in here to constants, put a 0 in, and you're going to see that now it's butted up to the edge. I'm also going to correct the bottom. Looks fine. You can see that that is 0 over here, and this is SuperView, so that's good. Trailing, however, is messed up. Again, this is SuperView. This is background. I'm just going to change this to 0. Boom, that's fixed. And background top over here, select that. And what's wrong with this? Background top's fine, SuperView's fine. We're going to change this to 0. Boom. All right, so now our background fits in exactly the way that we want it. And now you're going to have a background that changes. And actually, you can see that it changes if you come down here and click on dark mode. You're going to see this, and if you click on light mode or any mode, it's going to show you completely different things. All right, you can see also the text works. And your text is going to continue to work for dark and light mode as long as you don't do anything. So let's go and select tip here. You can see here, this color right here, as long as you use one of these colors that is here, it's automatically going to switch back and forth for light and dark mode. So don't mess around with that. And I'll show you later on how you can go and put custom colors that also will work with dark and light mode, but not in this video. All right, so now we need to add more components to our interface. So I'm going to go and click up here and go label, drag over here. And if you made it this far, do me a favor and leave me a comment. That would make me very happy, because sometimes I feel like I'm sitting here in my basement talking to myself. So I'm going to go and give that the name of total. I'm going to go here and I'm going to say that I want this to be bold and I want this to be 25, and done. Guess what we're going to do now? We're going to go and get a text field, drag that in here, and see, you can see the line under there. I want to make sure that that's lined up. I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to go and put those in a stack view again. Stack view, there we are, looks good. We can go and give this a different name, such as total stack view and stacked view. Good. And you can see that those components, whoops, those components are inside of there. Now what we can do is I want my distribution again, fill equally, and I want to add my constraints. So add constraints. I want this to be 20 from the top, so everything is exactly the same. We can go in here and verify. Tip stack view is the guy selected, so that's good. Have this be 0, have this also be 0, and have constrained margins. Don't do anything with the bottom again. Click add 3 constraints. And it looked like something messed up because it's butted up to the side. Did I have constrained margins not working? I don't know. So let's undo. And everything looks, that's messed up right now. Let's do undo again. Everything's back to the way that it was, I think. So let's go and redo those constrained margins, or add new constraints, I mean. So let's have this be 20 again, and this is going to be the tip stack view. Come over here, change this to see what it did, safe area. I want this to be 0, or I want this to be the main view, I mean. Have this be 0, and select this, view, 0, constrained margins. Add 3 constraints. Is it right now? Yes, it is. Good. And you can see the spacing's a little bit messed up here. That's fine. We can fix it. So let's go and get our total stack view. And let's come over here to spacing, and let's change this to 54 again. And now you can see it's in the right place. All right, so now the interface is going to get a little bit more complicated because we're going to add in a slider. So let's come over here again, grab a label, put it inside of there. I'm going to call this tip percentage. So tip with a % and a colon. Going to change our font once again to bold as well as 25. Click on done. That looks good. I'm going to click here and I want a slider this time. So drag it over, drop it inside of there. I'm also going to have a label that is going to update based off of the slider information. So click on this, grab a label, drop it inside of there. And I'm going to give this slider, I'm going to say that the tip amount is going to be 15% by default. And I'm also going to go and change our font to bold and this to 25 points. And done. And then I'm going to select all of these components by holding down Shift. And I'm going to go and put those in a stack view again. You can see they lined up automatically, which is cool. I'm going to change my distribution this time. Anytime I work with more than two components, so I'm using 3 in this situation, I normally tend to use fill and proportionally instead of fill and equally. Let's see how this works out. Again, I'm going to add my constraints on this. So constraints, this is going to be 20 again. This is going to be 0 again. And make sure this is our main view. This is going to be also main view and 0. Constrain margins, click add 3 constraints. And I think that's going to work out. We're going to check it later. And we can go and give this tip percentage, let's call it percent, and StackView. There we are. You can see that got a little bit messed up there. Let's change our spacing on this to 40. And I think in this situation, I'm going to have this be fill instead. So let's go and switch to fill. Everything fits. And then we can go and look at all the different iPhone versions just to see if it works. So there's the smallest iPhone possible, and it looks like everything's working. All right, so that's good. So our layout's coming together here. Now what I want to use is a stepper. So I'm going to go over here again, and I'm going to get another label, and I'm going to drop it inside of here. And I'm going to go and give this the name of split. And this is going to define how many people are going to be dividing up the bill. I'm going to again change my text to bold and also to 25 and click done. And I said that I want to use a stepper. So again, let's come up here and stepper. There's a stepper. Drag this little guy over here, drop him inside of there. And then a label, as they add people that are paying the bill, we're going to auto increment the number of people paying the bill. I'm going to have this be 1 by default, and I'm going to, of course, change it to exactly the same font again. So I'll change that to 25 and done. Go and give this a name. Well, actually, we have to go and put all these different parts together. So I'm going to go and select split, stepper, as well as the one label. Again, put them in a stack view. I'm going to leave the distribution as fill. Add some constraints to this. Again, this is going to be 20. Again, I'm going to make sure this is set for view. Set that to 0. I'm going to again set this to view. Set that to 0. Constrain margins. Add 3 constraints. And everything looks pretty good. And I'm going to change my spacing on this. Let's try 56. And we can go and look at the different iPhone versions, and yes, it works out. So that's good. Then I just need to add in 2 more labels and 2 more text fields, and we are then ready to code. So come in here, get a label, drop it over here. I'm going to go and give this a name of tip split, and with a colon, and there it is, it's updated, and we'll change this to bold, and we'll change this to 25, and done again. And did I give this a name? No, I didn't. So let's go over to our stack view that we had before, and we'll call this split stack view. That's just so I can easily tell what I'm working with. Go and get another text field, and drag that over here, and there we are, looks good. Select both of those, throw both of them into a stack view, and I'm going to use fill equally here because I used that for all the other ones and that worked out pretty good. I'm going to come down here, add some new constraints. We have 20 points from the top, and you can see that's good. I'm going to come over, select view again, and go and have 0, and view again, and change this to 0. Constrain margins checked, add constraints, looking pretty good. I'm going to change this to tip split stack view. Tip split stack view, better name. And I am going to go and have the spacing on this be exactly the same as all the other label text views that we have. And that lines up. All right, one more and then we can code. So let's go get some labels, throw another label inside of there. And this last one is going to be total split. There's that. Change the text again to bold, 25, and done. And then get a text field, drag that over here. There it is, looks good. And we can select both of those, throw them both into a stack view, and I'm going to have distribution be equally, just like we did previously. Go and add my constraints once again to 20, and select view, view 0, and view and 0, and add 3 constraints. Looks pretty good. Let's change this, however, to 54, just like all of the other ones, so everything lines up. And there we go. Now we got everything rocking here with our interface. So our interface is done, and now I'm going to show you how easy it is to code everything. So, whoops, I got a little problem here. There's a little triangle up here. Let's select that, see what's going on. Actually happy that it happened. And what's it say over here? It says 3 views are horizontally ambiguous. So what's really great is you can normally just select these guys, and you're going to see there's a little red arrow right there. I'm just going to click on that, and it says split, set horizontal, hugging priority, blah, blah, blah. So let's go and click on this little dot we have right here, and it's going to basically allow, you can just tell the Xcode to fix everything for you. So it says decrease horizontal hugging of split, blah, blah, blah. Let's just click change priority, and the error is going to go away. So that's really cool. Let's go back to show our files by clicking Project Navigator, and there we go. And you can see if we click on this that everything is still working on all of the different types of devices, as well as orientations. So everything is looking really great. All right, so let's go back here and let's change our orientation back to the way it was. So now to go and actually see our code, what we're going to do is click up here where you see all these lines where it says Adjust Editor Options, and I'm going to click on Assistant. And here is all our code. We can get rid of all this stuff. Don't need that. And here is all of our code. This right here is actually the viewcontroller.swift. If I click on View Controller, it's going to show exactly the same thing. If I click on Main Storyboard, it's going to show me the interface as well as this. I almost always work like this, and you're going to see why in a second. Because basically what I'm going to need to do here is, of course, the user is going to enter in a total bill amount, and everything else on the screen, actually, now that I'm talking about this, let's go and do a little bit of handiwork. So I want them to be able to enter information up here in total bill. I do, however, want to block them from basically doing anything with any of these other text fields. Well, how do we do that? And also on top of that, I want to make sure they enter a actual dollar amount and they don't start putting letters inside of here. So let's go and click here. And I'm going to define how I want them to be able to interact with the total bill amount. So I'm going to come over here and I can define what type of keyboard shows up whenever they click on it. So I'm going to say keyboard type, and I'm going to say decimal pad. So I only want them to be able to enter numbers. Spell checking, do I need that on numbers? No, I do not. So I'm shutting it off. And correction, let's also shut that off. So that's pretty good stuff. Now it would be great if they had like money inside of here, but they don't for content type. So we have to actually do that ourselves. And that's all we need to do for that. However, what I'm going to do for all these other text fields that I don't want them messing around with, I'm going to select them and then come over here and it says user interaction enabled, and I'm going to uncheck all of those for all the other text fields. So they won't be able to go in there and type in wrong tips and mess things up. So I'll do that, and there we are. Now they cannot interact with those elements. So that's a good thing. Another thing I want to do is I want to go in here to my tip percent amount, and I want to define some things. So our slider, it doesn't really make sense for it to be 0.5 as a value. What it makes sense to be is 15. So that's what I'm going to put inside of there, because 15 is right here. Then I can define what's the maximum tip. I don't know. I'm going to put 50 inside of here as a maximum tip amount. Everything else is pretty good. Click on the split, or the stepper, I mean. And I'm going to say that the value by default is going to be 1. The minimum is going to be 1, and the maximum, let's say this is, I don't know, 20, well, 25. How many people could you possibly eat with? And I'm also going to have that this is going to step by 1 each time. All right, so I got all those set up, so that's good stuff. And now what I want to do is go and have it set up so that whenever these different components change, I'm going to be able to interact with them. So what are some things I might want to interact with? Well, definitely going to want to interact with the total bill text field. And to go and get a reference to it inside of our code, I am just going to hold down the control key, drag it over here, and define where I want it to drop. And this little guy pops up right here. I have to give it a name. I think total bill text field is a pretty good name. Make sure that you have this selected here, UI text field. If not, then go and drag again. Remember, you just control, drag, and drop. And that looks good. So hit connect, and it's going to automatically create that for you. And don't worry about all this stuff. I'm going to explain what all this means later. And I'm going to do this for all of the other things I want to interact with. So again, I'm going to go control, drag this over here, and drop it right there. And what are we going to give this one? I think a good name would be tip text field. Then we're going to be able to change those values, get those values, do whatever we want with those values. Hit connect, and it's automatically generated as well. We're also going to do the same with our total. So let's go and put this inside of here. There we are. And I'm going to call this, take a wild guess. You got it, total text field. And make sure you spell it right so it looks good. Connect. And what else do we want? I think the tip % label is something that I'm going to want to be changing. So control, drag this down inside of here, drop it in, and I'm going to call this tip %, and it's a label, not a text field. Make sure this says UI label inside of there, and connect. The split label is also something I'm going to play with. So grab that, drop it inside of there, and I am going to call this split label and connect. The tip split text field also I'm going to want. So drag that down here and change that to tip split text field. And that's good. Connect. Running out of space here. And also I'm going to do that with the total split. So drag that there. Change this to total split text field. All right, and connect. All right, so basically what's going to happen here is the user is going to enter in a bill amount up inside of here. Whoops, I forgot to go and give this a name. So let's go and call this total split StackView. Not that important, but total split StackView. All right. So we have our total bill amount up here that the user is going to enter in. Whenever they do that, the user is then going to be able to change the slider here for the tip amount. The tip amount is going to automatically generate. The total is going to add whatever total bill is to the tip, put that there. The stepper, if it's set as it increases or decreases, it is going to change how the tip split amount. So that's going to be, if there were 2 people, that would be the tip amount up here divided by 2, and total split is going to be the total part here divided by 2, and that's it. So we have to make all that stuff work. So one way we do that is we're going to go and automatically create functions that are going to be called anytime something changes in one of these guys. So what sort of things do I need to worry about? Well, if the tip slider changes, I'm going to want to be notified. So under here, where it says Viewdidload, this is going to be the function that's going to be called whenever the application loads. All right, we'll be putting some stuff inside of there. But what I want to do here first is go and connect the action of the slider moving to calling my code and interacting with it. So again, I'm going to hold down Control, drag this over here, drop it inside of here. And you can say or see that it says action. So I'm going to call this tip slider changed, and make sure that whenever you select here it says UI slider. Okay, make sure you do that, otherwise you'll have to do conversions and it's a pain in the butt. So just click on connect, and you're going to do this with the other different things you want to know about. So the split stepper, anybody clicks on that, we want to know about it. Drag that inside of here and give this a name of split stepper changed. And again, make sure you have this UI stepper selected, hit connect. And then the final thing is whenever this guy up here changes. So hold down Control, drag it down here, drop it inside of there. And I'm going to change this to total bill text field. Whoops. Yeah, field changed. And that looks good. And remember that this needs to be UI text field. And editing did end. You can change to different things inside of here. So I'm just going to have it be editing did end, which means that it's going to update after they type in a bill amount and then click outside of it and can connect. All right, so good stuff. Now we need to write the rest of our code. Now what I want to do here is I want to have my code fill my screen. So I'm going to come over here where it says View Controller, click on that, and now I can see everything a little bit better. All right, so now what I need to do is figure out some of the additional variables I'm going to need to worry about. And one of them is going to be total bill. Now, inside of the interface, everything is going to be treated as a string, however. So what I want to do is I want to convert the total bill into a double, or, you know, a number with decimal places. So to do that, I can go var total bill, and this is going to be a double. I'm going to put a question mark after it here. And that just means it's something called an optional. In my Swift tutorial, I talk about this. And that just means it's a value that could or could not have a value. All right, so it might have a value assigned, it might not. So it's just a way to, you know, potential way of saying that, hey, if you're trying to get this value, it might not exist or not. So maybe you should go and check first before you try to display it or use it. All right. What I want to do is cast this string into a double. Whoops. Total bill text field. All right. That's what I'm working with here. And there it is. And specifically, I want the text from the total bill text field. And to get it, since you declared this as an optional, to get it, you have to put the exclamation mark inside of there. Again, it's something that helps you avoid errors. What other things am I going to potentially want to store about my application? Well, I'm going to want to store the tip percentage. So I'm going to go var. And whenever I put var inside of here, that means that this is a variable with a value whose value might change or might not change. So I'm going to say tip percentage, and you're going to see another thing called let. Whenever you type in let before you define a variable, that means that it is a constant. Its value cannot change. So tip percentage, and this is a double. And I'm going to give it a default value of 15% because that's the default tip I have defined. I'm also going to want to store the number of people that could be paying for this bill. So I'm going to go and say var, that could change, number of people. And that I'm also going to define as a double because it's going to make my math easier. So I'm going to say 1.0. And we know our stepper only allows us to increment by 1, so we don't need to worry about that. Also, another thing I want to do is I want to set it up so that the user can only enter decimal values inside of the total bill amount. And to do that, I'm going to need something that is called a number formatter. That's basically going to require that we only have decimal values. So I'm going to call this formatter and number formatter. And there we have it. And as I'm thinking about it, the view controller obviously is a reference to the file that it's inside of, which is going to control the total interface for our main storyboard. I, however, am also going to want to put inside of here what's called a prototype. And a prototype is basically an agreement with your class that you have here that you are going to implement certain methods inside of your class. And what this prototype is going to allow us to do, it's called a delegate. It's going to allow us to block users from entering anything that isn't a float inside of our total bill. All right, so we have the UI text field delegate. And as they enter information into that text field, we are going to define in our code down below that we want to check what they're typing in and verify if it's okay or not. So if they hit a letter, then we're going to say, no, that's not good, and we're not going to allow it. So we'll write that code down below, and I'll explain it further whenever I do that. And then we come down into Viewdidload, and this is going to be the code, like I said before, that is going to execute whenever our app loads up for us. And one thing we're going to need to do inside of here is assign our text field for the total bill amount to the delegate view that we went and inherited from right here. So we're going to basically say, hey, we want you to monitor the information entered in total bill and verify that it's okay. So we're going to say total bill text field. And if you're not 100% getting every single thing here, don't worry about it. That's normal because I'm hitting you with a lot of information. And as you make more and more apps, everything's going to make more and more sense. And as we go further into this tutorial series, I'll explain and actually create delegates so that you'll have a complete understanding of how they work. Basically just guards that are going to protect our data. Say, is our data okay? And if it is, allow it. And if it isn't, then don't allow it. All right, so after we do this, then what we're going to do is initialize our formatter that we have right here and define the number must conform to a decimal format that is built into Xcode. So we're going to say formatter is equal to number formatter. And then after that, say formatter dot the specific number style that we're looking for, that we're going to say is okay, is a decimal. So we're going to say number formatter style and decimal. And then after that, we will say also that we do not want them to be entering values that are negative. So we're going to say the minimum value is 0. So we're saying here that we will only allow decimals and the minimum value is 0. That's it. Okay, pretty simple stuff. Now after this, what we're going to do is we're going to define what happens when the tip slider is changed. So very simple. I need to get the current value from our slider. So this is going to be a constant inside of this function. So I'm going to say let slider value equal to, I'm going to convert the value that it has into an integer. And how I get that value out of the text slider is, you can see right here where it says sender. Well, that's a UI slider. Well, that is the slider. And how you get the value out of the slider is just by saying, hey, the sender that called this function to run, I want the value of that sender. That's it. Then what I want to do is assign the slider value to the label with a % after it. So I'm going to say tip % label text is going to be equal to, inside of quotes, I'll define the string that I'm creating. And if I want to get the slider value, this right here, this variable's value, I put a backslash and a parenthesis and slider value. Close that off, and that's going to get me that value. And then I can throw a % there and a closing quote, and that's going to automatically update the tip % label that is going to be next to that slider. Okay, what else do I need to do? Well, I need to change the value for my tip percentage that I defined up inside of here. This guy right here. So I can say tip percentage and paste that inside of there is going to be equal to, and I want to convert this into a double, so, or a value with decimal places, and I'm converting the sender value, which is a string, into an integer and then into a double. And then to actually convert this into a %, I need to multiply this, because it's whole numbers inside of the interface, I need to multiply this times 0.01. All right, what else do I need? Well, I'm going to need to update my whole entire interface each time one of these changes is made. So I'm going to create a custom function down inside of here. And this function is going to be called update interface. And right like that. Now what I want to update my interface, I'm going to need to do a couple different things. I'm going to need to get the value in total bill and calculate the tip amount. So I'm going to say if let total bill is equal to self total bill. So I'm basically saying if total bill has a value, well, then I'm going to do some different things. I'm going to go and get my tip text field and change its text to be equal to. I need to convert this into a string. And this gets slightly complicated. You need to go format and then define how you want your information to be presented. So what I want it to be presented with is a $sign, and then I want 2 decimal places. Well, how you do that is you go %.2. So I want 2 decimal places, and this is a floating point value. A floating point value just means it's a number with decimal places. That's all it means. And then I need to surround all of this with quotes like that. And then I need to define what value is going to be placed inside of here. And that is actually going to be a calculation. And when you're performing calculations, it's good to put them around, surround them with parentheses. Close that off there as well. And inside of it, to get the tip amount, I'm going to go total bill and multiply it times whatever the tip percentage is. And there's the tip percentage. And that is going to give me all of that. Oops, and I typed fund instead of funk. There we are. And I also typed in seld instead of self. All right, so we got that. So what else do we need? Well, so I'm going to go and calculate. I just showed you how to calculate the tip. I'm also going to need the total amount, the tip split, and the total split. Jump back over into View Controller. And I'm also going to have to get our total. So I'm going to say total text field, and I want to set the text inside of it. Again, I'm going to use the string formatter here. So let's go paste that inside of there. And this is again going to be a decimal with, or 2 decimal places inside of here. But to get the total bill, I'm going to have to get the tip amount plus the total bill. So I can just say plus and throw total bill inside of there. Total bill. And there we go. And what else do we need to do? Well, we need to get our tip split. So I'm going to go tip split, and text field, which is inside of there, is going to be equal to, throw the string format thing inside of there. And this guy is going to be the total bill times the tip percentage divided by the number of people. So number of people. Then I also need the total split amount. So total split text field. There it is. And dot text. Oops, I messed that up before too. Throw that there. Make sure you put dot text there. That's better. And then to get the total split text field amount, I'm going to go total bill times tip percentage. And I'm going to surround this with parentheses. Parenthesis. Throw another parenthesis here. Whoops, parenthesis. And then I'm going to go plus total bill. And then after that, I'm going to divide that total amount by the number of people. And there we go. So now I'm going to be able to update all those different things just by calling update interface. All right, so now we got to make these other things work. And I'll just call update interface whenever the tip slider changes. There we are. Good stuff. So now we have to make the split stepper work. Here, again, I'm going to say stepper value equal to int, remember, because it's saved as a double. Go and get the value for the stepper. And I'm going to say split label text is also going to be updated. So that's the little label that's next to the stepper. Again, I want the stepper value that's stored in that variable. To do that inside of a string, I have to go stepper value like this. And then I'm going to update number of people to be equal to, remember that's a double, get our stepper value. And then I want to update my interface again. Update interface. Now I need to do or handle what's going to happen when the total bill changes. Well, pretty simple. I'm just going to update the interface. All right, good. Now what I need to do is go and set it up so that I will be able to dismiss the keyboard. And this is basically going to happen anytime the user clicks anywhere outside of the total bill amount. So I'm going to call this dismiss keyboard, and how I'm going to put a underscore here, and sender, it's going to be UI tap gesture recognizer, and then I say total bill text field. So anytime they click outside of the total bill text field, I say resign first responder, and that's going to close the keyboard inside the app. And this is total bill text field. There we go, and that's fixed. Now I'm going to come up inside of Viewdidload and set it up so that we can dismiss the keyboard. And to do so, I'm going to say let tap gesture is equal to UI tap gesture recognizer. Target is going to be set to self, which is the application itself. That's what it means. And the action that the function we're going to call is going to be to dismiss the keyboard. How you do that is you say selector, that's the function we just created, self, and dismiss keyboard. And then after we do this, I can say self view add gesture recognizer, and then inside of here we're going to put our tap gesture inside of it. And this is giving us an error, but we can fix it. All we need to do is add object to our dismiss keyboard function. Click on fix, because this is actually using Objective-C, and that's all fine. And if we come down here, you're going to see dismiss keyboard now has that inside of there. All right, and I don't see any errors. So everything's looking good, except I'm going to need to come down inside of here and set up the rest of the functions, or one function that's going to handle our text field and making sure that we show decimals. So I can type in text field, and I'm going to go and get rid of this part right here. I just did that as a shortcut. And then we're going to say text field, UI text field, and to go and catch and protect users from entering anything in that isn't a float, you're going to say should change characters in range, NS, range, and replacement string. And basically, if they enter in something that does not fit what we're looking for, this is a string, we will block it. But here, this is going to return true or false. So a true or false value is called a Boolean. And then inside of here, we're going to check if the text field conforms to the formatter settings, which requires a double, which is a number with decimals. And if it's valid, we will return true, and otherwise we will return nil, which means nothing. So we'll say return formatter number from, and our text field, text field, text, and we can have 0, inside of here, get rid of that. 0, 0, we could say is okay, and throw that there, and close this off with parentheses, and then our string, and otherwise we will return nil. And I got an extra parentheses there. All right, I think I got that all set. And I forgot to put a parenthesis right here. Save that, and everything looks pretty good. And now we can run it. And in regards to running your application, you come up here, click here, select anything that the different devices you want to work with. Let's just leave it at this. And then you can hit the play button upside here, and it'll automatically start the simulator running. And here is the simulator, and it can take a little bit to load at the first time, but after that, it'll load pretty quick. Come in here. We could select 100, for example. If we try to put multiple decimal places, it's going to block that. And then if I go into the tipper amount, you can see that it's automatically running everything. And you can test this on all the different devices. And you can also come up here and change the orientation to see that it still works there. But you might say, well, what if I want to actually use this on my real phone? So you can do that, of course. So let's go and close this. What you're going to want to do here is go and open your iPhone and go to settings, because you have to make sure that you have the exact same software on Xcode as well as on your phone. Now, to make sure that your phone is up to date, you're basically going to have the most up-to-date version of Xcode as well as the most up-to-date software installed on your phone. So you're just going to make sure that everything is all up to date inside of here. So if you didn't pay attention to what I was doing, just click on Settings, General, and About, and make sure that you have everything all updated on your telephone, as well as have the new version of Xcode, and everything should work there. Of course, make sure that you have set up your developer account inside of Xcode with preferences. So you have to have your Apple ID set up inside of here. Then what you're going to want to do is connect your iPhone to your desktop with a USB cable. Your iPhone's going to ask you if you trust the computer. Click on Trust. And if you do, then that'll be all set up. Then what you need to do is come up here and select whatever your iPhone's name is. And then you'll be able to run your application directly on your iPhone. And that is basically it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial. And like always, please leave your questions and comments down below. Otherwise, till next time.